officials got together and BYOA talking with some of the kids that was involved. I'm happy to say at this time that we don't have that same problem. So after the success of the first meeting, we decided to have a second. This time, the purpose of this meeting is to serve as something like a preventive, to talk to people, to find out ways we can prevent those problems from happening again. What we have here this evening is a cross-section of our community, people from schools, advisories. I'm sorry, not advisories, she's not here this evening.
Yes, she is.
That's right. I'm sorry. Ms. Diane Dawson. Thank you. Ms. Diane Dawson from Advisories is here. We have an official from Linda, Roosevelt. Proviso Alliance, Community Action Council.
Council for Community Action.
Okay, all of them, man. I introduced yourself in a few minutes because I've done a good job here. I will get each and every last one of you introduce yourself. So our focus will be this evening is how can we best serve our kids and cope with today's problem in society. Daryl Armstrong will serve as our moderator. But before we get to that, I'd like to just tell you a brief history of BYOA, who we are, how we came about, and maybe answer any questions you might have about our organization. We started back in August of last year. Started from an idea. The guys wanted to get together and try to do something nice to show our appreciation for the kids and the coaches of Broadview Little League Baseball. When we got together, we decided there was a lot more potential to what we had. We decided to take a step further. We did do that. We took almost 70 people to White Sox Park this past summer. After that, we continued to meet and decided we wanted to be an active part in the community. We wanted to try to make a difference, so we got involved. At this time, we have about 60 members in our organization. All of them are not actively involved in the day-to-day operation of our operation, but they are morally supporting what we stand for. I'd like to tell you briefly a little something about the guys that are sitting up here this evening. To my right and my left, these are executive board members. Matt Long, right now, he served as coach for Broadview Little League Baseball for several years. He's a father of 2 boys, taxpayer, registered voters. These things are important. And I'll mention that each and every one of them are taxpayer registered voters. He's also on the Little League board. He's our chief recruiting officer. Clifton Lewis is a father of 3. He's president of Little League Baseball this year. He's treasurer of our organization, Broadview Utah Region Alliance. Curtis Yassing is a father of 3, taxpayer registered voters. Basketball coach for Broadview Park District basketball program. He's running for a commission of the Park District Board in the upcoming election in April. He's our vice chairman. Daryl Armstrong is our secretary, father of 2, taxpayer, registered voter, Scoutmaster of PAC 80. I mentioned all that and said all that to say these guys are involved. But there's a lot of other guys involved too. I can give you 4 names. I'd like to say some 60 other members. And what we're all about is trying to help the youth in our community. That's our primary concern. How can we help the kids in our community? One of our goals is to try to get more parents involved in the community. And that's what we hope to accomplish tonight. To help us try to find a solution to our problem, the people are sitting in front of you now. And at this time, I turn the meeting over to Mr. Armstrong so he can take us to the rest of the meeting for the evening.
Thanks, Randy. I think it'd probably be appropriate now if we could have this distinguished panel introduce themselves and the organizations that we represent, both for for all of us here on the panel and also for you folks out there in the audience. Afterwards, after everybody has identified themselves and who they represent, we'd like to open the floor for questions from anybody here or anybody here on the executive board. Hopefully in an effort to try and talk about some of the issues that you might have and ask these people who are familiar with and veterans who work with youth some of the solutions that they think would work here for addressing the problems with the youth in our community. If I might start with you here, sir, please.
I'm Lorenzo Clemens, Cook County Sheriff's Office. I'm Director of Intergovernmental Community Relations, and how I got involved is through Lindup School, and they asked me to come out tonight and be a part of the panel of the men here, Broadview Youth Outreach Alliance, and I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I can help shed some light on some of the things that we're talking about. It's not something that's just exclusive here, it's universal, so I'm encouraged to see that people are getting together to attack it before it becomes a real problem. I will be meeting with 2,000 gang members next Saturday. They're talking about putting together a truce, but part of the problem is that nobody took this step beforehand. So they've become 2,000 gang members who are trying to correct themselves now. So I'm glad to be here.
I'm Dolores Campbell. I'm in Broadview. I have a child that attends Lindup School.
I'm Steve Lappin, principal at Lindup School.
Chantal Cleason, I'm a police social worker for Broadview, and I work with Provides and Family Services.
I'm John Grayson. I'm the juvenile officer for Broadview Police Department. I might say it's a pleasure to be here.
My name is Don George. I'm the chief of police here in Broadview, and I echo all the side. This is the excellent stuff that this organization is doing.
Joan Crowder, first of all, Broadview resident, Chicago public school teacher, and a parent of a student at Lindup.
Diane Dyer Dawson, principal of Proviso East High School. Glad to be here this evening.
Jackie Watson, parent, registered voter, and I volunteer work in this community. I have a son at Lindup.
Janice Swim, just a parent, and I have a son at Lindup.
James Wilson, I'm advisor, lighting counsel for community action, street gang intervention.
We also invited, and due to the fact that we ran out of chairs, they're sitting down here in the audience. Mr. Kidd,
Related to most of you, my name is Jerry Kidd. I have business in town for approximately 5 years. I mean, the same idea that we have is taking our young people. We have an after-school program to teach students and give us some exercise. Thank you.
and Reverend White.
My name is Jim Wright, pastor of Broadview Wesleyan Church, and I appreciate all that everybody's here doing. It really helps.
Okay, as you see, we have a pretty diverse cross-section. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Annie, I'm principal at Roosevelt Elementary.
As I was saying, we have a very diverse group of professionals that are skilled and experienced in working with youth. Very happy to see the principal here from Roosevelt High School, here, Roosevelt Grammar School here this time. Our last meeting, we talked a lot about some of the issues among all of Broadview, and we've been working very hard to work more with Ms. Hunt so that some of the programs that we're trying to administer here in the community, we can also work with her school and help her with some of the youth in her school, the way we've tried to work with Lindup. I'd like to open the floor up at this time to questions that anyone here in the audience might have of any of these experts here on the panel.
I'm John Ely, a resident of Broadview. My question is to Chief Jordan. Have you noticed any gang activity in the Broadview area specifically? Well, what do you mean by gang activity? No, there's no concentrated gang activity. That's not to say we do have gangbangers around, but as far as the concentrated gang activity hanging around, no.
Chief George.
talked to someone in the Maywood area that said to me that we was in a state of denial, meaning that we was not brought, preferred not to address certain problems, and instead sweeping from the road and acts that were not there. Can you speak that?
It's difficult speaking with that when it comes to a third party, but I'll try. I can go back to 1981 when we first saw signs of what that time was gang activity. That's 12 years ago. What I meant with this gentleman's question here, the way we have operated in the last 10 years is, number one, not to give an opportunity for gangs to congregate. Don't give them a place where they can meet. Again, what I said before, that's not to say we don't have gangbangers in town. I'm not saying we don't. They're there. They're all around us. What I'm saying is that, and I'm sure John can tell you because he's been a youth officer for about 40 years now. He's dealt with this sort of stuff. They're there. They are out there. But no, as far as being in a state of denial, no, never. Like I say, if they were out there, I would say, first of all, the first thing we have to do, which, like I say, I thought this was an excellent way of getting to people. We need your help with stuff like this. This is, denial would be just, as you said, shoving underneath the rug, which we haven't done. I don't know how else to explain it. Your question coming back from a third party, I don't know. I don't know where you heard it from or where it came from. But like I say, all I can tell you is what I know, what we do know. Yes, they are out. No doubt about that. Concentrated? No. Do we have them coming through town? Yes. But what I'm saying, in town itself, and I think John can back this up, now we can answer the rest of it, is that a concentrated area? No. John, you want to say?
I can definitively say we have, as you're all aware, gangs have hierarchies, as any business does. We don't have any gang leaders that live in the boundaries of Broadview. Those that may or may not have attempted to gain this status, we've given them what I would call concentrated attention. Maybe they're left or gone elsewhere. We do have, as the chief has made reference to, what I refer to a lot of times as wannabes. The gang lifestyle, let's face it, for what you read, what you hear, it's flashy. To a young boy, it can seem attractive. So something like this gives them an alternative. Gives them a strong alternative, which is what you have to do. Let's face it, if we all remember back when we're that age, you're not really focused on what you want to do. You're a teenager, your mind kind of you just kind of go with the flow, as they say. If you can give the boys a direction, I think they'll take it. We've got a lot of good kids in this town. My job as juvenile officer is not all that difficult because we do have a lot of good kids in this town. The activity is not all that great. I think that's a testimony to the parents of the town.
So what do you do specifically monitor the activities of kids?
If we hear certain, I confront them. I tell people point blank. I've heard you're in this particular gang. And I'll tell them it's not against the law to be in a gang. So if you are telling them, most of them don't. And a lot of them won't own up to it. So you'll wonder, are they really that affiliated with it, or are they just want people to think they're become aware. That's been my standard ever since I became a juvenile officer. Try to be aware of what's going on. Someone says, we're in this gang, find out. Something they want people to hear, or are they really devoted to it? And people that are, people that we do wander through town that we take into custody for whatever reason, they'll say it. Yes, I'm in this gang. Yes, I am. And I'm damn proud of it. No one ever obviously says that. They'll either deny it or say it's just something you've heard or something like that.
Well, in your opinion, as a youth officer, would you say that Broadview has enough youth programs aimed at prevention of that sort of thing, gangs, drugs?
I think this is a step in the right direction. You can always have more. Kids need things to do. A lot of times, even when they get to the high school age, let's face it, I mean, not all kids are star athletes. Not all kids are academically inclined to go, say, into an English club or something. You have a lot of kids who are just middle of the road. You know, they do okay in school, and maybe their sports interests aren't that great, but they need, again, direction. You know, I would say the more programs, the better. You know.
Glad, I mean, maybe Joel can ask a couple of questions.
I was just saying, piggybacking on the gang problem, do you notice any drug activity in certain areas of the world? Anything prevalent like that?
Yes, there's drug activity out there.
Any designated areas?
No, none. Again, you know, it kind of relates back to the gang. I know it's read the paper and we see on TV sometimes it's not the way it is, but yes, there is drugs out there, no doubt about that. But again, it's like the gang. We talk about the gang. It's not concentrated. It's here. It's there. But it is out there.
Just to add to that, just to give you an idea, a thought that might make you feel a little better, I would say all of our drug arrests that I can think of going back the last 4 or 5 months have been made in vehicles. Not in houses that people that live in Broadview. They're vehicles that are passing through the attention of the officer to arrest and make. So the people that don't live in town, it's just unfortunate for them they have to come through town and we have to grab them. So nobody in town houses, anything like that.
That's kind of what I'm speaking of.
Right, no, nothing like that. All the arrests we've made, I can think of, last 6 months, all vehicles, because we get to keep the vehicles then.
You mentioned that you are aware of some gang activity in terms of not a collective group, but city gang bangers, and you mentioned the presence of drug activity in the community. We often face an issue, even dealing with the school system, of parental involvement, and we realize that it's key as part of the solution. But unfortunately, as we've often seen, it's in many cases not to the level where it should be. What are you, as police officials, police department officials, recommend that we can do as parents and citizens to send a clear message to the potential gangbangers, to the potential drug dealers, that as a community, you're saying in Broadview, this is not going to happen, and you're going to face formidable opposition if you bring that here. What suggestions as far as the role that your department is play, as well as our role as citizens, to send this message loud and clear? I'm concerned about it because some things I've seen. I've lived here 12 years, well, 12 and a half years, and coming in and out of my garage late at night sometimes I don't feel as secure as I once did. When I look across the street and down the block and I see 12 youths out at 10 or 11 o'clock just walking, when I didn't see that before, and I'm concerned that, okay, now it's time to do something before we end up seeing gangs repeating on the ground.
I'll start that by, number one, someone asked me a while ago, do we enforce courtesy law? We do. Give you an example, last summer, we had I would call it problem area, but a bunch of kids were staying up at a corner and I'm not talking 18-year-olds, I'm talking anywhere from 9 to 10-year-olds to 15-year-olds. They all lived there. Now you're caught between kind of a rock and a hard place. You have some people calling and saying these kids are all 11, 13, 14, 12. And then you have parents of these boys say they're living my block, at least they know where they're at. So it's kind of one of these back and forth things. What we've done, or tried to do, enforce that curfew law, and that this year we're going to enforce it much more strictly than we have before. When you talk about parents, it's a funny thing. I was in youth work for about 14 years before. Most of the people who come to meetings like this are very concerned parents. The ones who don't come, you have to get to. I believe we talked before in reference to this. Parents are the key to everything. The home life is the key to everything. I strongly believe, that's my own personal belief, that if you have a good family, a mother,
direct their children the right way, you won't have that much problems with it. It's the other ones you better worry about, you know. Again, like this certain instance, it's true that if I lived in this block and my son or daughter was on a corner, it's still midnight. You see, it's a difficult thing to try to talk to them, and China's talking to them much more than I have lately. But you try to explain to them that this is really not the right thing to do. You realize it's midnight. They should be at home. They shouldn't be out there. We know they're on the street. But then again, it's getting to the parents to make them understand things like that. And that's basically what we try to do with this as far as this. So things we can do, we will try to do. One is in the curfew laws. It's surprising, but at one time we didn't have to worry about it, you know. But now we do have to worry about it because we've got kids coming from other communities. You know, and again, the curfew law in Broadview is 11 and 12. It's the same as the state law, 11 in the weekdays and 12 on the weekend. And we follow that very strictly. We're going to do it again this year, but again, I'm sure John has much more conversation with parents than I have.
It's been made and thinking at the same time the direction of Broadview Youth Outreach Alliance, what we're trying to do in the community. Parent involvement, networking, bringing people together is an answer to a lot of our problems. Just knowing one another is an answer. And I think Mr. Long can tell you a little something about what we're trying to do in our organization to bring people together. Matt.
One of my main and foremost objectives with Broadview Outreach Alliance is trying to get at least 2 fathers from every block in the community of Broadview. That way, we can become more close, and like you were saying, the phone calls. If you see so-and-so's kid over here, you know, you make a phone call, and the parent might not be aware that this child is out. Sometimes the parent is unaware that the child may have snuck out of the house. We were all teenagers. We've probably done it before. I've done it, you know. But the thing is, we need to make our total community aware of what's going on and what we want to do in this community. Myself and working with the kids through various programs here in Broadview, I've come to know quite a few of the kids. And by living across the street from the park, when they come out here, they're making a lot of noise. I can go out there by front porch and start calling my name and tell them to go home. And they'll go home. But the only reason I do this is because I'm out there, they know I care about it, I know their parents, I know my name. But another gentleman will come out there who don't know the kid. And these kids will go toe-to-toe with an adult. And I think that's another place where the parental guidance is lacking. You got a lot of these kids will stand there and literally curse out an adult. You know, and you try to control yourself and not grab one of those kids by the tongue and rip it out of his face. But, you know, that's something that should never go on. It should not happen. And we have to be more, I'm not going to say really strict on our kids, but you have to make sure you teach them to respect one another, respect human life. That's a place where a lot of our youth are lacking. They respect nothing. They don't care about anything. And the youth officer, Lorenzo, you said they have a lot of, you know, we need a lot of activities. Yes, we do, because if kids don't have anything to do, they're going to find something to do. And there's another big problem we're facing in Broadview. If you've heard, we're losing one of our parks. Now, that's going to eliminate all of our kids from 13 up to 18 as far as baseball in the summertime. Now, we're faced with a big predicament. What are we going to do with those kids? If we got no place for them to play, what are we going to do with them?
Part of the problem is that we've just really basically in this country to put no value on preventive programs in terms of prior to. And we put it on the other end when we talk about, I mean, we can go out tomorrow and I say we need another gym. We got Division 11 going on. We can't build our way out of this problem. You know, I mean, keep me employed, I don't care. But we can't build our way out of this problem. So we have to come up with more creative ways. When I was over at Lindau School one night, I talked about teaching kids to negotiate. You know, it's something that's basic. That's negotiated. We don't do that. And I think what we have to do is reorganize our thinking. It's like I go to a school, I make a point to go into a school somewhere at least once or twice a day. And part of it is that at some point, hopefully you reach some children. Now, some children are, so I had a kid the other day that we picked up who his mother told him he could not go out. he says, I can. And not only did he go out, but he put 42 stitches in her head and threw it through a plate glass window. 14 years old. Now, my mother, that would have been the last you heard of that child, but people don't think that way. But there are some people who live in the fear. I could go bring you an obituary out the trunk of my car from the black disciples where they had a funeral. The parents did not have a funeral for the kid. The black disciple nation had the funeral for the kid. And the people who read the obituaries, the people who read who made the presentation were all gang members. And that kid was 19 years old, and they said he died in his nation, which meant that he died in his gang. That's what we're up against. That's the reality of some of the things. The good thing about being in a community such as yours, with people having a concern, is like it's simple, something basic and simple. How many people tonight called somebody and invited them to this meeting and said, let's go for coffee, let me drive by and pick you up. Now I shouldn't use the word drive by. but come by and pick you up. And and sometimes it's something as simple as that we really do forget. And just saying, there's a very important meeting tonight. Maybe there's a lady or a gentleman who maybe nobody's ever asked them to come to a meeting. Even no matter how many flyers they've received, or how many things in the newspaper they've seen, or how many times they've heard on the radio that there's a meeting. Maybe if somebody who's committed like you people here, just say, hey, look, I'm going to a meeting. Let's go to coffee afterwards or before, and let's go by the community meeting tonight. You'd be surprised how many people might say, well, you know what, nobody's ever asked me. And it's something as simple as that. We're in a war. We truly, truly are in a war. And any time that I go and tell people this, it's a severe war, and the enemy is our children. But at the same time, the people we need to save are our children. If you can think of Bosnia and Herzegovina and think of Somalia, it's no different than what we've got to go through trying to save our children from gangs. And that's a fact. That is truly, truly a fact. So if we understand that's how serious it is, then when you have a situation where you have a community of men who are trying to accomplish something, and you have a community of people who are coming out and listening, you have a police chief and a police department who's saying, I'll address your needs. You have principals and teachers and community organizations who are sitting here at a panel. Then what you have to do is say, okay, now what can we do to plan to have a good summer for our kids? And eliminate those people who want to come in. Gangs are spreading. They had a situation, and I don't know if you read in the paper the Sun-Times, where they were talking about the deaths that were in Inglewood. There were about 9 deaths, and they just arrested the guy. This is a guy who was getting out of prison, who was trying to take over his drug trade. Drugs are driving gangs. It's a problem. It's a big problem. The vice lords out of Chicago have moved to Minneapolis. They suspect that the vice lords killed the policeman in Minneapolis. That is the severity of it. You have the Crips and the Bloods out of California who tried to come here and take over Chicago gangs, and Chicago fought them off and sent them back. That's the problem. See, it's not a question of the mafia you have to worry about anymore. You're talking about gangs. When a kid on a block, listen, my mother's block, I've tried to get her to move 1,000 times. I go by there almost every day. Every day, I run a group of guys off, and I know what they're doing. So then what I start doing is start writing out license plate numbers. You can do that. Like I said, if you see a pattern in the car, write down the plate number when you talk to the chief. But you can also say, hey, I've seen this Buick come over to this park every day. That gives some ammunition to be able to say, okay, if that car is just sitting there, no telling what it might be doing, when the police come around, they might say, okay, I can do a 28 on that plate. This plate is out of Southside Chicago or Inglewood, or it might be further west. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you just sit here every night and say, you work in the park? No? Okay, I just want to know. Maybe you got a girlfriend across the street. But let me give us an explanation because this is a suspicious vehicle.
But I will say that I have noticed that there are students there that tended to represent that they had gang affiliation simply because of the way they dressed or whatever. But I don't think that there are, on the level of hardcore groupings, I don't think that exists at that level yet. There are students that would like to be identified with the gang because it's the end thing to do, because they feel offers them protection. So we have changed many things in advisories. The first thing that we did, or one of the things that we did, was we so that there would be no territories within the school. Prior to this year, students went and got their own lockers and tended to group with those groups they wanted to affiliate with. That no longer exists, and I think that has done a lot to change the climate that exists at Proviso. We've also had several summits with the Maywood Police and the County Police, because Proviso at least sits on unincorporated land. And we've had some positive things come out of that. We have more police patrols going to and from up and down Madison. We've had increased police involvement in and around the school. So I think that it has sent a clear message to the students that that kind of activity is not to be tolerated within the schools. And I see a lot of things changing. It's slap you down for this, but to know that there is a way to talk something out. So we need to move toward that.
Now, I've been involved as part of my company's efforts to get more involved in the community, which business goals when I was working in Chicago, and now I'm out in our compliance center. They have youth motivation programs where professionals come in and talk to starting from junior year, high school students and seniors, just bridging that gap between the world of work and their school activity to show them an alternative, some realistic role models. And I've had kids come up and say, well, you know, no one's ever talked to me about the future. Where do I go from here? What are the alternatives out there?
I think that that's very good, but I also want to say what we also need is someone willing to take the risk, some adult willing to take the risk to develop a relationship that's kind of ongoing. It kind of will be that support, because you get hyped up thinking when one day someone's saying, oh, you should go to school and you should do this and you can be this. That's one day, and then the next week you're back down, and the reality of what you have to face as a young person without support. You need to have a mentor that's there that maybe meets with them every 2 weeks and say, hey, how are you doing? What were your grades? If their parents are not asking that, someone needs to ask that question. Are you still going to school? Are you doing what you're supposed to do? Sometimes it's that little extra attention, a phone call from a mentor, makes a real significant difference in a young person's life.
Mr. Brooks?
I found that to be true, and that we have started a neighborhood youth mentoring program. That, you know, the majority of our kids, they come from single-family homes, okay? And without that parent involvement, you're going to get those kids who, like you say, the one reason, what have you, that they really need to feel that they need to belong, okay? And having been a policeman for 5 years and working with youth and working with Mr. Turner on a daily basis for the last weeks, I have found that unless you get your preachers and your parents to deal with these issues, come up with solutions to these problems, we're at a lost cause, okay? Especially with the parents. The majority of the parents are doing the drugs that the kids are selling, okay? I mean, to be realistic about that also. And one of the questions, how do you reach these parents, okay? Again, like I said, with Chief George, is that you're between a rock and a hard place, okay, as far as curfew laws. But I again agree with you, is that if you've got to start somewhere, okay? You just got to start and wake these parents to the fact that you're aware of this situation and you're not going to deal with it. You got to. Okay?
Okay, but John, when you see groups of kids on the end of the block, do you actually just break them up, or do you escort these children home to their parents? Tell the kids and parents, look, this is what I found your child at. Or do you just break them up?
If they're past curfew, we take them in.
Okay.
Where I was going to make a reference to, you were asking about answers. And I think one of the big answers we can have, we need to develop a chain of consistency with everything. We need to have parents at all times be aware of what their kids are doing, be involved with their kids. You can't back down, even for a day. I mean, when we were all raised, you can say, well, we had to talk. And that'll last another month. You can't do that anymore. Cook County officer said it's a war, and a war takes daily involvement. Now, the police department, we like to make a reference to the kids. You mentioned the parents that aren't here tonight. What do we do with them? Well, sometimes you need a little tap on the head. If the kids are in, you bring them in, you call the parents up, they get a little upset. Obviously, they didn't care in the first place, otherwise the kid wouldn't be out there. They come in, I'm telling them, your kid's out again, we're gonna bring them in again. Well, after a while, it gets a little nerve-wracking. What do you keep bothering my kid? Well, why don't you keep him in the house, and I won't call you up at 3 o'clock in the morning anymore. And after a while, the message gets through to them. And I've got a card file that's about this long, and it gets a little bigger every time. But it takes the consistency. It takes the police department's involvement, it takes the parental involvement, it takes the programs that these men have been generous enough to create to keep the programs of quality nature. But you can't back down, you can't let down just for a second, because otherwise,
I'm keenly aware of hearing fathers say the mothers do something with the girls. What we did was, and I'm not trying to be funny, but what we did was, we thought we did a father-daughter breakfast and a father-daughter dance. And what we did it for was just to get acquainted with some people we didn't know. And it was so successful because we had the breakfast one morning or one time, then we came back and had the dance at night. I mean, we had people like bringing their 70-year-old fathers bringing their 50-year-old daughters and that kind of thing. And it went from, from fathers bringing their 5-year-olds and 2-year-olds and all the way up. And it was so successful, and what came out of it, we created a swimming class on Saturdays. We had a dance class, we had an arts and craft class. So a lot of things came out because we came together. And we've been doing it annually every year, the father-daughter dance. The breakfast was not as successful because everybody says, they got something to do in the morning. But the dance was very nice. The fathers generated it, and we were able to keep it going. So, I mean, it's just something, sometimes we say, leave it to the wife.
Any home economics type courses there, that they have something like that for the Park District that teach the girls to cook, to sew, or whatever. This is something that for girls that aren't athletically inclined can.
That's right. Go ahead, home ec.
Yeah, boys too, because this is the 90s. The guys are married too.
I like to say programs that's going to involve the teens, the teenagers and girls. I'm looking into that right now. And we're going to have some, that's all I can say to you
Well, I'm
right
really
now.
worried about,
That
my daughter, she doesn't want to really be involved in the summer camp program, and it's very hard to get your child enrolled in it,
Well,
Just
I'm going to say this. We're going
Otherwise, you're cut off. I've been cut off a couple times because it was too late.
we're going
So, for like 13 to like 16-year-old, where they're too young to get a job, but yet they're in that age where they're like out in the middle, where they don't want to go to this camp group because they feel like they're out of place. So they need a place for that age group. And I'm very concerned about my
Well, you're talking about jobs. My agency every summer employs over 300 to 400 kids for our job training program. And they'll be starting taking applications in April.
Could you elaborate a little bit about what your agency does? I don't think many people here are very familiar.
Well, the agency's name is Proviso Life Council for Community Action. Short for that's PLCCA. We have over 16 community programs, from WIC program to the Head Start, gang intervention program, crisis intervention. We deal with the majority of aspects of all community problems. And we have the literacy program where we're working with IBM for those youth. Mr. Dawson, I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yes.
So our agency does a complexity of things. Okay. Had I known we've been to school, I would have brought some literature today, but I wasn't at work today also. But I will forward some information to you. So, and we have been there for, excuse me?
Are you located in Maywood?
Yes, right there in 11th and Madison. We have been in business for over 21 years.
One thing I like to just say, I've been to both Lindop and Roosevelt, and I'm very impressed with some of the visuals that they put up in the school for the kids. And, some of the things that we do, I always put up little sayings in the house, in my office, and things like that. And I think it would be nice sometimes parents to put those things up and pass them along to folks. And sometimes when you send out the flyers, put something, and I brought one. Of course I did. How to tell a winner from a loser. A winner says, let's find out. A loser says, nobody knows. When a winner makes a mistake, he says, I was wrong. When a loser makes a mistake, he says, it wasn't my fault. A winner goes through a problem. A loser goes around and never gets past it. A winner makes commitments. A loser makes promises. A winner says, I'm good, but not as good as I ought to be. A loser says, I'm not as bad as a lot of other people. A winner tries to learn from those who are in a higher position to him. A loser tries to tear down those who are in a higher position. A winner says, there ought to be a better way to do it. A loser says, that's the way it's always been around here. So, I mean, you know, little things like that sometimes.
He's had difficulties in school or is involved in the court system, or do you have programs that are designed to prevent him entering them?
Yeah, I personally, I run a youth program, and I do advocacy to keep those kids out of court. Those kids that do have to go to court, I go to court with them. Again, I say I work with Mr. Turner, the social worker, provides at least on a daily basis. Those kids who, in some instances, get withdrawn from school, get kicked out of school, what we do is refer them to Job Corps to continue their education. And in the meantime, before going to the Job Corps, then we have them do volunteer work through our agency, and we also work with employee services. So, you know, we try to be a holistic program for not only the youth but the whole family.
Okay, but most of the kids that you see have had a problem.
Oh yes, for sure.
Then you don't have anything in the Black Township that is aimed at preventing kids, so to encourage kids to keep them from developing problems.
Well, no, I can't say that. There's a lot. I can't say that. I can't say that. There's a lot of programs maybe that I'm not aware of that do preventive type things.
Okay, well, to let's get knowledge, is PLCCA doing anything in Broadview?
Okay, PLCCA Broadview United Way is one of the funding bodies for my program. What I had planned to do before the school year was out is to bring the program to Lindop School on the elementary schools, which my packet that I have consists of information on games, signs, stuff like that is very important to not only the kids but the parents also. Okay, it's just like a flow chart. You can just flip it open and see what the folks are, what the people are, you know, what are their signs and what is this here. Okay, it's like picking up a book and looking at the same. Okay? So before the school year is out, I hope to come to elementary schools to do that.
This question is addressed to youth officers, any of you. It seems that as a parent myself, and there may be others out here who are somewhat enhancers in terms of the dress. When I heard that black and red was a gang color, I'm sitting here saying, my child has a Bulls pullover, and I bought it, not realizing that it was a gang color. Is it safe to say, or that are you definitive in your statements that every child that wears black or Bulls jacket is a gang member? And what colors are safe?
No, not every child who wears it is a gang member, but every child who wears it is gang advertising. And I know that sounds kind of strange, because the gangs have taken those things as their own, and they are gang identifiers. For instance, one kid might be okay in Broadview to wear that red and black, but if you take him other than on 68th and Dam or in Inglewood, you take him just a little further east, you know, a little further south, then that kid is in trouble. Okay. Some of the things that they're doing now, for instance, like the Latin Kings, black and gold has always been their colors tradition. But now you say, well,
those are also fraternity colors.
That's right. That's right.
That's
right. So it's one of those kind of things, and then it's also how they alter it. The socks, white socks, new colors and symbols, have become gang oriented. And it's how they alter it. Sometimes you can see some little things that they do, like they might take the patch from the Oakland Raiders, or what's LA Raiders. They might move the patch from the left eye to the right eye. Well, one side is folks, one side is people. So, you know, I mean, ordinarily the jacket might come with the patch on the left eye, but they move to the right eye. It tells you right there. It's a gaming city.
So what we need to know as parents is be aware of signs.
Right.
Things that are simple. How can we get that information?
We can send you some stuff out from the Cook County Sheriff's Office. and I can make sure that I can get it to Ms. Brown and have the next meeting. And I can even have the next meeting, I can have some gang officers come out and talk, and just bring the overheads and everything. So that's not a problem. We can do that. See, one of the things also too is that, we have to, see, there's signals that we have to also as parents. I saw a commercial, and somebody, and I'll tell you the commercial, all of you probably thought it was very harmless, was the Starter Jacket commercial with Fresh Prince, the kid from Fresh Prince, and they had, the guy from Cosby Show, Malcolm Jamal Warner. And he kept saying, well, I swatched the hat, I turned the hat, I flipped the hat. I wrote a letter, and I told the Starter, I said, it was very irresponsible of you to have that commercial. Now, somebody said, well, why? Well, all gang symbols in the Chicagoland area, the way they wear their clothing and how they wear the style of their clothing is a gang identifier. Now, whether Starter knew it or not, now they wrote me a letter back, not to my satisfaction, so I'm in the process of writing another letter. But it's, the commercial, it's okay to promote Starter, but when you start talking about how you wear the hat, and you got Malcolm Jamal Warner with an earring in his ear, or Fresh Prince with, with the kid Fresh Prince with the earring in his ear, and turning about talking about how he wears the hat, he throws it in the back, and he throws it to the side, you really kind of solidify the thing with a gang, because a gang will say, hey, look what they're doing. Starter even recognizes us. And it's very simple. How can you deny it? Because everybody knows that you wear it to the left. Starter's talking about wearing it to the left. You wear it to the right. Starter's talking about wearing it to the right. The other thing is, there's little bitty things that you just have to start looking at. For instance, we have, the other day they were talking about the train wreck on the CTA, and they interviewed a guy who sounded very intelligent, and I was glad to see that, but he had a hat on with a marijuana leaf on the front.
Yeah.
So I called CBS and I said, how dare you? And that's something that we've got to do. Because, I mean, when we have a video where a guy comes on and talks about he wants a gangster beat, and they go out and have fun shooting their nines, maybe the controversy will promote records, but as far as I'm concerned, I've got to write a letter, or I've got to call and put in my protest. We too easily sit back and just think that it's really not affecting us, but it does affect our children. And it affects them to the point that they want to be like that when somebody talk about rump shaking and all that kind of stuff. Why not have the music and talk about something positive? Because you can do that. I mean, I love rap music, and I really do. But when it's wrong, I've got to speak out. Everybody, first of all, it's like the kid from Ice-T. Well, Ice-T been rapping for years. He came out of Oakland. I remember almost 18 years ago when Ice-T first started. Ice-T is not that talented. He really isn't. But he's driving and motivating the kind of music that our kids listen to and like and talk about. I just left the basketball game before I came out here, Marshall and Crane High School. And they were playing this record of Dr. Dre. Now, but look at it to know. See, don't look at, see, a lot of people say, well, I don't watch it. No, I watch it to know. Now, Dr. Dre is one of the hottest rap records out. Dr. Dre talks about picking up his homie. He goes to his house, doggy dog. Doggy dog gets out of the bed. Doggy dog gets in the car. They go to the park. Doggy dog has a marijuana leaf on the imprint of his hat. The girls are walking through the park. They got these mind-blowing beers out there in California. They come in quarts, and they just drink them. I mean, luckily it hasn't gotten here yet, but it's almost as bad as snorting cocaine. And they sit there, they drink it. They drive in their cars, they race it, they shooting their guns, they get back in. The guy says, I don't care about anything. I've had fun tonight, we chased some girls, we got drunk, we shot some guns, and then the doggy dog goes back to his house. And the guy's just staggering at 6 in the morning, the light's coming up, and just walking back. This is the hottest rap record that's going right now.
And let me add just one thing about that. On Dr. Dre, you can go to like the record store, and there are two versions of it. There's one that can be played on the air, and there's one that you can buy. And so just because you monitor something that you heard your child said was on the radio, doesn't mean that there's not another version out there that's sold in legitimate record stores.
And the other version is played in the cars coming down the street.
Exactly.
When I played in your house, we played the cars coming down the street. See, so, I mean, it's like, and I do it with love, with all the kids I deal with. I have nothing against the music, you know, that you listen to. However, let's talk about this. Especially when I talked to some young ladies and I said, do you really want to be considered as this? And here's the image, that you walk around in skimpy clothes and that you have nothing to do with your life but just to be a sex object for some man with a hat turned back.
And Linda, since I've been here, we've gone through a lot of different changes in clothing styles and fashions. And we always have had this thing where we don't allow kids to wear their strapped on, their overalls, we don't allow them to wear their head crooked, we don't allow earrings, we don't allow a lot of things. A lot of times I have, not a lot of times, several times I've had parents ask, you know, why can't they do this, why can't they do that? And maybe Lorenzo has explained some of the reasons better than I can, but it doesn't mean the kids are in a gang. It means that the kids are trying to imitate some of those symbols so that they may feel like they have the prestige of that. And we try to prevent it at Lindop, and most of the time we have parental support. There's a few parents who want the kids to have that freedom, and I think that if you're going to give the kids that freedom, with it, you need to accept responsibility that it could be going in the wrong places.
The other side of the coin is if we do have, you know, what you do is you have second and third generation gang members. I mean, you have people who are 40 and they're 50s. I can tell you some gangbangers who are 40 to 50 years old who think absolutely nothing of having their grandchildren be gang members. It's the pride. It's like when I was in the Air Force, or it's like I was in the Boy Scouts, or if I belong to the Kappas, or I belong to the Alphas, I have that fraternal love for my fraternity. Well, these people have that love for their gang because nobody else cared supposedly when the gang cared. Now, I always tell kids, you know, and I see it all the time, gang members don't come see you in jail because they don't want that association. Now, but what they will do is that you got to have a gang affiliation once you go to jail. But in terms of somebody coming to visit you, you know, I mean, good old mom who you abuse is the only, you see so many mothers dragging themselves into their jail, and it looks pitiful to go see some person who is not worth it. Now that's my whole concept, because if it was up to me, I'm a benevolent and I'm a loving individual, but I take some of these folks and put them on a boat, take them out to the middle of Lake Michigan, tie a brick around their neck, and if they swim back 6 miles, they can live. That's just how I feel. But you can't do that, so. Yes, sir.
I'm just stressing what this officer is saying here. As long as we do not have the political will to do what needs to be done as far as the gangs are concerned, they'll be here for a millennium. And regardless of what programs that we set up here, they will not be successful because we do not have the political will. I concur with him. And violence will have to take place before the gangs are eliminated. When I was a kid, now we talked about drugs here, and I was in Chicago. Heroin and marijuana, that was it. No designer drugs, no hallucinogens. Now, you name it, it's here. And this nation is being destroyed through the gangs and drugs. And if we, regardless of what programs we set up to educate our children, they are going to succumb to the peer pressure because they're wannabes. Most kids today wannabes. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and it's battle royal 380 days a year. We argue all the time. And I was telling her, I said, look, I said, you have it, she's very smart, but she do not utilize it because she want to be identified with the other group. And I argued and argued. 2 months ago, she come home, she says, you know, Dad, what you've been telling me about the pregnancies? Sally has the baby because Sue had a baby, because they want to identify with one another. They were in school, they had this conversation about the status structure here in the United States. She says, you were absolutely right. And it dumbfounded me. She woke up and she smelled the coffee. She was never a bad kid, but she was a rebellious kid. I do not have half the problem, but I battled with her, and my position was this. I'm the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Now, going back to what this other man said, when I come up, I got a spanking, all right? I was ridiculed by my peers. My buddy says, oh, you got a spanking, you did this, you did that. You touch a kid today, it's child abuse. So the parents are between a hard place and a hard rock.
The kids know laws better. Kids know laws better than the adults.
Beg pardon?
Kids know laws better than adults, and they really do.
Oh, I understand that.
They really do.
See, the law does not dictate to me when it comes to raising my children. I do what has to be done.
okay? And see, my children fear me, but not to the extent that I'm the villain.
Right.
I don't spank, I just look, and that's it.
You know what?
I'm the parent, they're the children.
The more, what you meet out in strictness, you have to also meet out in love. And see, you know, there's no one way that solves the problem. You know, I mean, it's positive ways. And, you know, it's a thing that, it's like this morning, I'll show you an example. My daughter's 5 years old. She gets embarrassed when I kiss her goodbye in front of her schoolmates. You know, and it's like, I mean, I'm like, huh? You know, and this is 5. So I told her, I said, look, let me tell you something. I said, last night, and I just had this conversation in front of her classroom this morning. I said, last night, when you kept me.
Like the problem you're seeing with the girl, we have some boys that are in the middle of the road. Are there any, can anybody answer me, are there any summer program jobs within our village, like in certain library, the village, police department, the park district? Will there ever be summer jobs here for the children?
Again, ma'am, I don't think touching
Within
this around me. We deal with the proviso life township.
Okay.
We deal with Hillside, Westchester, Berkeley, what have you. And those are some of the places that we employ kids. Police department, village halls, proviso township, all over. Well, it depends from the state, okay, what they regulate as far as monies allocated. But like for the past.
Isn't that
and it's
income thing?
Yeah, income.
Yeah, because if you have a certain income, your children can't
Right.
participate in that.
Mr. Wilson, you didn't mention Broadview, but Brighton Township does include.
Oh, yes, Broadview, Bellwood, Maywood, Westchester.
Yeah, but that's for low income. If you have a certain income, your children cannot participate in that.
Well, it's not too many, you're right.
I mean,
Okay,
is
it's
that
at poverty
certain-
level.
is that yeah, but what is that level? Isn't that like $12,000 or something?
It shouldn't be
It's
like
like,
that.
it's real low. I mean, it's a low amount, I know that.
You know what, if you go into some of the businesses in the community,
Right.
and the smaller companies, if you start now and saying, look, you know, this council of parents, we've been meeting, we patronize your store, and what we're trying to do is to try to create some opportunities for some children in our community. What is the possibility of having something available for the summer, and going to, and you know, if you, as a group of folk, you know, write letters and put a little petition together saying, this is our community, this is how much we do in your business, in your company, this is how much we do, and just start creating little pockets of jobs. It doesn't always have to be one organization trying to take the lead of 350 jobs. You know, we can get 2 here, 3 here, 1 here, 2 here, and then be able, there's another power stroke to be able to have those kids understand that those jobs came through this organization. You know, and that's, you know, so it's not just, you know, just put the burden on one organization, but create an atmosphere where you can go to, you know, even if it's just a car dealership, you know, or a pancake house, something, just create some opportunities.
Just a closing comment. I've heard a lot of things that I think are interesting and good ideas. Where do we go from this point with a plan of action? Can we then look to BYOA to provide us with a list of some of the ideas that's been talked about and to plan a next step? We presented some interesting statements here tonight, some ideas came forth. Now we've got to do something. We've got to try and have a plan of action where we're going to go from here. We're going to have another open forum session like this to generate more ideas, but at one point we've got to really start sitting down and strategizing as far as how we're going to move forward with some plans of action.
Start setting up committees.
Setting up committees for whatever we're going to do.
Yeah, people, you know.
I think too, the reason why the parents, if you don't do anything, we come out and sit and listen, everybody has good ideas, but nothing's accomplished, then the parents, they do stop coming. They say, well, we sit there and talking, it's fine, they have good ideas, good suggestions, but nothing's ever done.
Well, I'd like to
So they don't
suggest
take
that
the
after the
time
first meeting that we
to
had,
come
a lot of the comments that were made by the parents, we documented them and we took them to the mayor. The executives of BYOA met with the mayor and with Chief George, and he indicated that one of the things they wanted to start doing in the summer is enforcing the curfew laws a lot stronger. Those are some of the comments that came out from the last meeting. So I think we'd like to take the responsibility of taking some of the things we've heard here today. Mr. Reed's been recording some of the comments back there so that we could make sure that we document it all and sit down and see if we can formulate a plan to pull together some of these ideas.
When you have your father daughter dance, I'll bring my daughter, let me know.
Okay.
I'll buy tickets. You got 2 tickets, I'll buy 2 tickets, so let me know when it's going.
I think one of the things that we really need to do here from a standpoint of BYOA, and we've tried to identify that here in the last couple of months, are organizations here in the community that have the ability to fund some of the programs, some of the ideas that we've gathered ourselves, ideas that we've heard here in the different community forums, and we're rapidly working toward that. We may take the time to talk to some of you folks here again on this panel, especially that maybe have some experience in working with youth programs and going after other organizations that have the ability to give us the funding, because it's obvious that we have the desire and we have the people to bring some of this change about, and knowing that we have so many parents out here in the community that want to work with us, that's the approach that we want to take.
Yeah, I think that if you do something, and that, even if it's 10 children, 10 parents, but if you start doing it, other children, word of mouth, they will start there, get to rolling, but you have to start rolling. And like the summer's almost here, we haven't planned any activities for the summer yet. These teenagers, they are standing out there, they just don't have anything to do. They don't have any places to go. They don't have any social centers. They don't have any dances for them. If the school doesn't give a dance, and the other children, in between 13, 14, 15, they don't go to the grammar school dance. They don't go to the high school dance. That's all they have to do is jump around, what have you. But if you don't have anything for them to do, they do sit there and listen to this garbage music with all this swearing and cursing and all this. You play some decent music, they might sit there and bebop around, what have you. But they stand out there because they don't have nothing to do. Some of them not baby stupid. You get scared, you walk like, then you look at them, you know one of them, I said, that's so-and-so, and it's fine. But they just stand around, they walk, and they talk because they have nothing to do. If you don't plan it and do it.
We do have a dance.
I mean, in other than that, sports too.
It will be. We're talking about social things, events that we like to do here, educational, cultural. We have these things planned, just take some time in organizing ourselves. We started back on, we have all kinds of great ideas. We will need to support the parents. This coming Saturday, we are planning a trip to the Harold Washington Library, and our intention is to take 100 kids. The kids will come from the community of Broadview. We want to put in place something every month. We're working on it.
How do I get my child to go to Harold Washington Library?
Well, just by you just mentioned it, she's.
I haven't heard that. So,
Well, one of the things.
so this would have, if I would have came tonight, it would have just went right by us.
Well, one of the things we.
What time?
Well,
Where
it's
does
a
she
free
meet?
trip down.
Serious, what time? When does she meet? How much? If there's a cost,
There's no cost. There's no cost. One of the things we've kind of been hesitant in announcing is because we have not received any insurance from any insurance company. We don't have any insurance right now. But we are planning that trip, and we have people working on trying to get some
What do you
insurance
mean
for it.
insurance?
Well,
Liability insurance for carrying the kids on the bus.
If your child
We've
is hurt,
rented buses to take them to the library. We're concerned about not having a liability insurance for carrying 50 people on the bus.
what about the sign that she's like to have for the park district where the parent is responsible, like it waives the.
It does. If you said
It waves, but there's an indemnity insurance that park districts already have paid that'll cover it for accidents. But although they say they're not responsible, they are basically responsible.
Recreation or something out of that?
we had a chance to talk to Mayor, he said that bill was not worth solid. It's useless.
You wouldn't want to do it for anything.
Were they going to salvage it and create something in that town or?
He mentioned that he's considering demolishing the building and putting something right there on that corner. It's in the planning stage, and I can't say any more than that. But we did approach him about that building. We also approached the Proviso Township Library, Proviso Township, and asked him to help us in obtaining the Seventh-day Adventist building that's for sale. That would answer a lot of our problems. We would have space to run the kind of program that you talked about this evening.
Yeah, the yard out there too.
Big
That's some
yard.
kind of Bob
So we're working with the Proviso Township and trying to get them to.
Well, let me make a commitment. If you get whatever space that you have in terms of a yard or something, if you got a play lot or anything that needs to be cleaned up, I'll guarantee that we'll kind of share something to clean that lot up. So just let me know what it is.
We got one that's trying to.
this summer, you will see a difference. I can guarantee you, you will see programs and things in motion that opposed to where it used to be. We have to be patient with us and support us in our efforts.
See, one thing you parents have to understand, all of us up here are involved in so many different things in the community that until we can get more and more parents to come out, we are stretched very thin, and it's only so much we can do. But, we're out there every day trying to help this community as a whole because we care. And I never want this community to get to where none of you can walk out here without fear for your life. I don't want this community to ever come to that. Reverend White?
Street blocks or, couples coordinated on a street block that coordinate the block and take care of it. We have a tremendous amount of resources we're talking about here, but if we had people, and I don't know what the level of awareness is as far as people being responsible, accountable, wanting to work that, but if we had people or a couple on each block or 2 blocks, whatever is feasible in those situations, and we could work with those people, train those people, and pour in the resources we have to them and channel it into the streets, into the homes of the parents that need it. I mean, we have the resources, but we don't have the contact with the people, it seems like, that we need to have in some of the parental responses and accountability. But I don't know I've been long enough to know the level of awareness as to the response of people within the community to take on that.
Especially to become involved and to come out to our meetings and see what we're about so that we can educate them and share with them the things that, that it's going to take to complete and to do what we set out to do, and that is to make Broadview a better and safer place to live. Now, the only thing that we can keep on doing is keep on trying to reach out to these people and encourage them to come out. For some reason or another, we got that I don't care, leave me alone attitude. I'm doing my thing. And maybe, if we keep trying, maybe we can break that sort of attitude, mentality that people have. But one thing is definitely, I'm just a firm believer that it takes strong men, strong parents, committed parents to make this whole thing work. And we just can't give up. If we give up, it's going to give us a simple.
I would like to commend the BYOA to see that we have men in our community that have stepped forward and tried to
comment that this is not representing the BYOA. If you look out right now, even men you see out here are members of the BYOA, and that's what we're striving for, to get people more and more involved. And this is just a small portion of what we're going to become. Say that somebody's something to 3. We're going to have programs in place. We're going to work, just like Nancy said, we're committed to it. We're going to be around, we're chartered by the Secretary of State. We are committed to making a difference in Broadview, and it's going to take the effort of each and every last one of us. And I have all the confidence in the world in these men, and they've shown time and time again that when the call has been given, they answer the call. So we're going to keep working in that direction.
I would like to, at this moment, commend John and George for the efforts. I have seen John reach out to his children in certain instances that I've been around, and I know that John George is committed to work along with us, and I'd like to just commend our police department.
Again, would like to thank all of the panelists for coming out. A lot more people involved here this time than we had in the past. I'd like to thank the parents also for coming out here, and as these guys indicated, please believe in us, give us an opportunity to pull together some of the ideas we have, some of the ideas that you've also supported so far, and help us starting this year to make this a better place to reside. Randy, you have a closing comment?
Well, I'd just like to make the announcement, we'd like to take 100 kids there. We are going to have to sign permission slips. It would just be a nice thing to have insurance. We're working very hard to make sure we have insurance. We want to do things the right way, so we won't have any repercussions. But if you have a child who's interested in going to the hair washing library, and if you'd like to go, I'm extending the invitation now. We're going to meet, it's coming Saturday on 12:30, that's February 27th, 12:15 to 12:30, and we'll be leaving from Broadview Park District, Shore Park. We're going to take two trips. One will be leaving at 12:30, other one will be leaving somewhere around 2:15.
12:15 and 2:15 for 1 o'clock tour and a 3 p.m. tour.
If you have any ideas what you'd like to see us do, let us know.
Father and daughter dance.
It's already written out. Mr. Hayes had one comment he'd like to.
Oh, this trip is a 1-hour tour of Harold Washington Library because Black History Month is set up around Black History Month, so it's a 1-hour tour.
Oh, yeah.
You ain't no go. Yeah. So then that way I mean supposed to be high school. You get to set my yeah. He's supposed to be but it's not. That's right, but I got a filter.
If the others are here, and if not, we'll just do the best we can with. All right.
Come on, we'll see together, okay?
This is the science department, okay? Anybody who's looking for a job in your family, you guys are a little bit young to look for jobs right now, but if you know anybody who's looking for a job, they can come to this floor and ask for information about jobs, okay? And also, you have magazines on this floor. Anybody want to read a magazine, go to the desk and tell everybody, remember that? And the person who's responsible for this art is from Brooklyn. Does everybody know where Brooklyn is?
Yeah.
City in where? New York. That's right. City in New York. And what this author did, Allison saw it. What she did, she went out in the streets of New York and she just picked up all kinds of straps and irons, and she decided to put it all together in wicker and wood and tank, and that's why aluminum is called tin. Yeah, this is how this was created by her. She just went out in the streets and picked up stuff, okay? Okay, we're gonna go on up to the fifth floor, follow and look up something. But if you don't know how to look up something on the computer, you can go to one of the desks and ask somebody if they can show you, all right? And when you go to the computers, where you're going, how to get there. All right, we're going to move on up to 7. I don't know if anybody told you, the tour takes approximately 45 minutes to 1 hour. There is a program at 2 o'clock in the auditorium about Paul Robeson, and I don't know if any of you are going to be around, but you're welcome to sit down and follow me. We'll have somebody to hold the door with some strong gentleman. In 1991, an author by the name of Tim Rollins came to Chicago from New York,
and he worked with some underprivileged children, black children, at Columbia University. I don't know if anybody knows where it is. Does everybody know where Columbia University? Interpretation, pardon me, of what they thought it would be in the shape of a horn. And
What's your
that was for staff only, okay? A lot of parties are held here. If you're interested or your parents want to hold a party here, after the tour I can give you the name of the person to contact, but it's $4,000 for 4 hours for a nonprofit organization and $6,000 for the public if you want to rent this room for a party for 4 hours, okay? The trees are Russian ivy olive trees along the side there, all right? And just real quickly, we're going to go into this exhibit hall. After that, we're going to go into the Harold Washington Vision of a New City to the north. And when you go into this room, we'll ask that you all stay together. In that room, there's the videotape, but you won't stay for the videotape. You're welcome to come back and watch it on your own. But you will see some photos that of Harold Washington along with other celebrities on the wall, and campaign buttons, some other things that were his own possession.
I went to his funeral. Yeah, I said our mom and dad did too. He said funeral. My mother,
That's what we took.
I took my glasses and put them on.
That has been accomplished, notwithstanding the blind opposition, which tried to derail us and curtail us for that 2-year period. Message to people in Chicago, this great city. Right now, we just bow our heads and walk in silent prayer, lifting up Mayor Harold Washington.
Uh-oh, we are. There's no way that we are going to fit on
Everybody? Okay, all right. Let me tell you about the circle, okay? This circle is a cosmogram, all right? And what this circle represents, Jean-Baptiste DeSalvo. Does everybody remember Jean-Baptiste DeSalvo? Yeah. Everybody knows that name? He came to Chicago as the first black settler, and he came to Haiti. What it does, it's going to be the first black settler of Chicago. It shows the link between DeSalvo and Mayor Washington being the first black mayor of Chicago, all right? And along the circle are some things that Mayor Washington talked about when he was mayor of Chicago. Remember he was elected mayor, he got to talk to everybody about how he feels about the city and everything. So when he came there, he gave a speech, and this is some of the things that he talked about along this cosmogram circle, all right? In that room is where I'm saying. When you'll be going into that room, there you go. In this room is the auditorium.
Get them inside. How many y'all got? What's the whole set for
Worked out fine?
Oh yeah,
All right.
beautiful.
You enjoy yourself?
Yes,
All right. You enjoy yourself?
Where's Naya, D? Where's Naya out? Huh? Where's she at? Didi, get back over here. You got you carrying her, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. I know who you are. I know who you are. Let me know when I get word.
How you doing? All right, over there.
Hi, Naya.
What is it? What is it?
Michelle made some friends and she gonna be a
See, now you got two people there, huh? Two people divided.
What's going on